Hey, what's up, everybody? One coach's opinion. And just remember, it's my opinion, it's not a fact. Today, hopefully this will be a short one. You know, they always get long because I'm enthusiastic. But let me say this. If you're not correcting as a coach, if you're not correcting mistakes, you're teaching mistakes. If you're working the pads with a guy and you don't have any defense behind his punches and you're just letting him whack away at the mitts and you're not making him move his hands or put his hands back up, when he goes to spar, don't yell at him and be like, put your hands up, put your hands up. You look at a lot of these videos sometimes and you wonder, is any defense being taught? You know, see, let's say this. Right now, if Tank isn't the face of boxing, which probably not the face, but he's one of the faces of boxing. You got to give him that. But people still have yet to see some of this kid's talents for real. Most people think that the Tank is just a offensive monster, which basically with a nickname like Tank, that's what you see. You never really see a Tank backing up or making slick maneuvers. A Tank just comes forward like, I'm a Tank, stop me. I'm a Tank. Here comes the Tank, haul ass. That's what the nickname gives you. But trust me, this kid has defense. And if you haven't seen it yet, you just don't know how to open your eyes to the sport of boxing. But some people, you might not ever see it until it's time to see it. Like, there's been nobody in the ring with him so far that most people see did not show a defensive side of what that guy can do. And I'm going to tell you, Ryan Garcia was one that should have showed you defense and counterpunch. Number one, Tank is if you haven't noticed, Tank is a pretty good counterpuncher too. Counterpunchers have to have defense. You don't find too many non-defensive counterpunchers out there. Not saying they don't exist, because somebody could always bring up, yeah, this guy he's a good counterpuncher, but he took a lot of shots. Yeah, I mean, if you take a lot of shots, really, you don't have defense. Just because you can hit hard and you counterpunch good and knock a guy out, if you took 4 shots to do it, that doesn't really mean you have defense. That just means you have a hell of a chin. So, as far as coaches go, I was working with a guy one time, or a guy was working, with me, or under me, or I was a lead coach, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm watching him, and I say, man, why do you keep letting him drop his hand? He was like, well, I didn't tell him to drop his hand, it's just something he's doing. I said, well, if you don't correct it, then you're teaching it, you're enhancing it, you're approving of it. Now, and anybody that knows me knows, when I worked the pads, this is what I usually use. And any fighter that has worked with me would know, even from when I was creating my own sticks by hand, knows that they've been popped a couple times with these sticks. And they'll say, yeah, my hand was down. It's no proof, because sometimes you can work with a guy, he said, man, you drop your hand. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You can't say that with me. If you come and ask me for some mitt work and you want to fight with your hands down, I don't think it's gonna be too successful for you. You're gonna walk away with a lot of pop, 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 pop. I tell guys all the time, be ready. If I'm warming a guy for a fight, I say, you on point? I might start a little slow and just get his defense working. All right, now when we start working, I do a little lighter because mistakes can't happen. But I'm still pop, pop, make sure he block and block, block. Like the other day I put up a video of a kid that I challenged him. He had some headphones on. I really generally don't approve of headphones and earplugs in the gym. But if you're doing something like jumping rope, just working on your own, you're doing some burnout rounds on the bag, something that requires no coaching, then yeah, go ahead and put it if you want to do it. So anyway, we had a challenge to see whether or not I could knock his headphones off while giving him combination. Now, I'm not just sitting there trying to knock his headphones off. It has to be during pad work. So if I tell him to throw a 3-piece, after a 3-piece is done, I might throw shoot the sticks at him just to make sure his defense is on point. Make sure that he's not throwing punches and then taking naps. So that's where the sticks come in. Now, I had it where, and I'm saying, okay, yeah, get on in here. Get on in here with them headphones. See how quick I knock them off. And amazingly, I didn't. He was able to block. And I said, you know what? I should let everybody wear headphones if they're gonna make an effort. To me, he made an effort not to knock those headphones off more than I've ever seen him make an effort to block actual punches in sparring. That's how much I was kind of impressed with the drill, even though I wouldn't want nobody, let's do the headphone drill. I mean, if a guy was willing to take this challenge, let him. And then try to let him know, hey, Joe, if you can stop a guy from knocking headphones off and you're working pads, then you should be able to stop a guy from throwing punches. Now, if the guy just comes in, and I'm just talking about during your regular mitt work, if a guy puts some headphones on and you try to knock him off, if every time he throws a combination and he threw the combination you wanted, and afterwards you throw something at him that knocks that headphone off, and most likely that guy don't have much defense. Or if you just throw something that hits him, he doesn't have much defense. But back to what I'm saying, if you sit there and let a guy slip with his hand down, roll and drop his hands, and put himself in positions in which you can clearly see the defense is flawed, then you're pretty much teaching that form of defense, which is no defense. Anything you let go on while you're training somebody is a form of you teaching them. So if every time a guy throws a punch, he does a little two-step backwards and then comes back in, and you let him do it, you're teaching. If every guy finishes punches, he do that little, what I call that little Wizard of Oz thing where guys always click their feet together. You know, they run and then they click their feet together and come out. You cannot throw any successful punch with your feet right there. Now, if you want to build something off that, like I click it to lure him in and then I step into a hard jab, if you want to try to build off the flaw, you can, but it's still a flaw. Anytime your fighter is at a stance, it's going to be a flaw unless he's using it as a trap. I seen an MMA fighter one time fake a body shot, and when the guy came to finish him off, nailed him with an overhand and knocked him out. That's a guy that's actually using his brain in the ring. Now, I can actually say this. Boxing is a skillful thing in which you basically use your hands. Some guys just think MMA is just guys fighting each other. Oh, man, they kick in and they elbowing. Just imagine how good you have to be, actually, to stop a guy from punching you, kicking you, elbowing you, wrestling you, taking you down. It's so many defenses that you have to learn in this sport that the great MMA fighters are actually masterful fighters. And some guys are just rugged guys that make it a certain level, but the great ones are masterful. That don't mean they won't lose. Anybody get caught with a shot, but that means like 9 times, if these guys fought 10 times, would they go 50-50? How many times would this guy win? How many times would this guy lose? Conor McGregor, I mean, I could say one of the highest paid MMA fighters. I can't really say skillfully one of the best MMA fighters, because everybody knows he has a flaw. When he gets, his jiu-jitsu isn't all there. And when he gets taken to the ground, it creates a problem. But he's better than Nate Diaz. But not on that night. Or not when they fight. It might just be his kryptonite. You know what I'm saying? That Nate Diaz just goes a little harder, takes a little more punishment, or like that. But Nate Diaz, he'll be an MMA legend. Is it Nate or Nick? I think Nate. He'd be an MMA legend. You know, he even has a little boxing stint in him, you know. And people always remember him as a real tough guy. But nobody would say, hey, man, you know, you really want to learn great MMA, you need to watch some Nate Diaz films. You're not going to get that. But you got to give him credit for doing the things he did. I've actually been in the back room with him and watching him warm up for a fight, and he's like kicking and warming up in Timberlands. You know, like he has a street mentality. Like, this is a street. This ain't a sport. Nate Diaz goes out there to fight. If it ain't Nick, it's Nate. Nate is the one that fought Conor McGregor, right? If not, okay, I'm making a mistake. But I think it's Nate. But I've actually seen him. I've seen him work out. And he has a mentality. He's like in jeans and Timbs, warming up, kicking and everything. Like, look, I'm not going to I'll put that stuff on because you want me to wear it. But really, I'm just a tough guy. I just like to fight. And they pay me for it. But that's his mentality. But back to what we're saying, 9 times out of 10, a great one's going to beat him because lack of skill. So just because your guy is tough and he can take a beating doesn't mean you don't have to work on the other things like his defense and stuff. And if you're allowing him, sometimes if you correct some of his mistakes, now if you try to correct him, he's like, hey, man, I don't need that shit. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah, then, hey, leave him alone. There's nothing you can do. I tried. Or if I would have said that to him, he said, man, I done told him 9 times to put his hand up. I got a cure for not putting your hand up. Right here. Bop, bop. It's cushion. It's cushion, and probably inside is metal. No, not metal. No, inside is piping. You know, plastic piping. And it's just effective. You're not gonna really, you're not gonna wipe away with marks on your face. You're just gonna, it just acknowledges mistakes. The same way I tell people a headgear. A headgear is not designed to teach you how to absorb punches. It's a tool that should be used for when you get hit, say, oh yeah, I'm getting hit with too many right hands, without you going to sleep. It preserves your face. It preserves your brain. It preserves everything about it. You know, you can get hit in your nose enough times where every time you get hit in your nose bleeds. So if you know this, hey, look, I got a lesson the times I get hit in my nose and my defense just ain't it. But if you're getting hit and your answer is, I'm going to get a bigger cushion, more headgear with more cushion, you have no idea what a headgear is for. So back to the coaching part, like I said, if your guy's sparring and he's getting hit a lot, but he has a nice headgear and it don't seem to be phasing him, that's not a good thing. Even if he gets the best out of a sparring session, it's not a good thing if he took a bunch of punches to do it. And that's the difference really between amateur fighting and pro fighting. In amateur fighting, usually you got a headgear on, you got bigger gloves, and you can go in there and take a few punches because you got a bunch of cushion and it's parrying some punches. If you have that same amateur mentality by the time you turn pro, it's not going to work for you. Because those little flaws that you're doing, the flaws that coaches might let you slide with, the flaws that you're getting away with in sparring, you're not going to get away with when you have an 8 or 10 ounce glove and no headgear on and faulty defensive hands and faulty head movement. It's not going to happen. So if your guy's sparring, he's taking an excessive amount of punches, but he's still in and you like, yeah, keep going, and you don't say, hey, stop. Hey, Joe, come on out the ring, man. Man, what? No, we rumbling. We doing this, we doing that. You're getting hit so much that now it's just becoming a personal street. It's not a sparring session. If you fail to learn anything from a sparring session, it's a waste of a sparring session. If you go in there with a lesser opponent, say you're a pro, you have 30 fights, and you're sparring a guy that just turned pro at 4, and your thing is to beat the crap out of him, you'll probably learn nothing from this sparring. Your level is higher, your skill level is higher, you're probably a stronger fighter. If you're just pummeling down sparring partners, you're not really learning from sparring. When you fight, when you're in there with a lesser guy, you got to challenge yourself to do stuff that's really hard to do. If you go in there and say, today, I'm going to practice landing uppercuts. Say if you tell him, hey, look, the majority of shots only way I can win this sparring session, the only way you give me credit if I can land an uppercut. I'm going in there trying to perfect my uppercuts. And that's all y'all work on. And this guy kind of lands more punches than him. If he walks away better at throwing uppercuts than he was when he started, that sparring session benefited him. And I mean, the other guy, it's going to benefit him. And that's not saying the only thing you can throw is uppercuts. It's just saying that's what I'm working on. I could just throw my three piece is already there. I could just throw that at you, blah, 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 and put you out. But I want to learn to land my uppercut. Or what if you say, you know what? Today I'm a southpaw. I'm going to fight you conventional. I'm going to learn to fight conventional. You have just enough fights where I should feel it's a challenge and it's safe to try to fight you conventional. Now, if you get in there with a guy and you normally, and you're not a switch-up fighter, and you're a southpaw or you're conventional, and you turn to the opposite stance and you still beat the crap out of this guy, he shouldn't even be in the ring with you. He shouldn't even really be your sparring partner. He's not really going to help you whatsoever unless you're working on something like, I'm practice landing jabs. I'm going to land this one punch. You know what I'm saying? You got to stop me. You can do everything you want to do, but I'm going to do my jabs and footwork on you. That's the only thing a guy like that can help you out. He cannot help you in any other way, shape, or form. If you're able to switch your stance and you're not a switch stance type guy and you still beat the crap out of this guy, he probably really doesn't help you whatsoever. And really, be honest, you probably don't even help him. You know, if you had to judge who's getting the most help, it would be him. But you're not getting nothing. You're really actually having a falsehood. So one more point. I remember I'm watching the guy spar. This is a big kid. He normally spars smaller kids. I hear his coach tell him all the time, move your head, move your head, move your head, move your head. I told him. When he asked me now, I don't really butt him, he asked me, man, what do you think I could do to help? I said, stop letting him spar these little guys. That's like if I go in there with a 13-year-old and I'm a grown man, he's not going to make me want to move my head that much. I can block all his little shots. And plus, when he does hit me, it doesn't really hurt that much anyway. So it's not going to encourage me to move my head. But you put me in there with another grown man, I guarantee that'll encourage more head movement than put me in there with him. So sometimes you got to see what you're up against and that'll correct the problem. But if you're putting a big kid in there with a smaller kid and you know that, and it's going to give him a falsehood because he's going to think this is what punches feel like until he gets hit by somebody his size and it's like, whoa, what was that? Yeah, that was what a punch from somebody your size feels like. You've been sparring with them little guys. They got more skill than you, but they're little. And they can help when it comes to offense, but defensive-wise, you're probably not going to move your head. Unless you got one of them guys that just, no matter who he's in the ring, I treat them all the same. You know what I'm saying? Defensive-wise, you know what I'm saying? But one coach's opinion, like I said, if you're letting stuff go, you're teaching it. If you don't make a stop to it, you're teaching it. If you got a guy, and even if you tell him, man, work on your defense, you let him spar 8 rounds, you see no improvement on his defense, he's still taking an excessive amount of shots, and you let this sparring continue to go, then you really encouraged him to do the things he's doing. Even though you can say, man, I tell him all the time, move your head, move your head, move. Sometimes you got to stop it and say, man, I'm not getting what I want to get out of this. Let's cut it. And if you got a fighter that won't cut it when you tell him to cut it, you got other issues anyway. So one coach's opinion, one coach's opinion. If you're not correcting mistakes, you're teaching mistakes. That's what this one's about. One coach's opinion, I'm out. Let me know how you think. Let me know what you think, rather.